What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Epic 7 video. Today was the balance patch day, so of course on stream we did a lot of testing at the Emperor and higher level in RTA for a lot of the new units, and I fought a lot of the new units that got buffed as well. But today mainly we're going to focus on Last Rider Krau, who I think to me was the biggest winner overall. I think this guy is absolutely insane now. I've always kind of been a fan, but it's been a little bit tough to run him in the past when your opponents weren't picking a lot of AoE units. But we'll talk about Last Rider Krau here in a second. I said I think he's the biggest winner overall, but I think this patch was one of the best. A lot of people have been talking about how they did a great job overall. Who else was on there, guys? Closer Charles, Architect Leica, although that one was a little bit iffy in my opinion. And just for the record, guys, on my last video, I did incorrectly I missed reading the Awakening portion. I apologize. I'll be much more careful in the future balance patches. But beyond that, Red Lilius, guys, alongside the Mortellix artifact was insane. I'll talk about that here in a sec, just a little bit. And then we had Christie, who I'm going to test soon. Ilanov, I've heard, can be insane as well. I think Smilegate just killed the patch. They did such a good job here overall, adding a lot more units that can be just more viable. But I think Last Rider Krau is maybe even too viable with how good he is. But anyways, we'll break it down. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, let's get into it. So real quick, guys, I have a question for y'all. Who, if you've already played or watched other content, who do you guys think was the biggest winner overall of this buff patch? Maybe some of y'all might say Leica, but I think overall, besides Last Rider Krau, I think Lilius is one of the most interesting with how much they gave her. I think she's also going to be very versatile. And then a lot of us were theory crafting, right? This Ancient Dragon's Legacy, use this to fight units like Lua. I put enough effectiveness to hopefully catch some on mids as well. Ignore the stats. I'm still kind of throwing things around. I think my end goal is to drop like any crit damage. I'm already pretty much at 0. Try to get that crit to 50, right? With the new buff, she always has 50 bonus crit on skill 1, skill 3. The bulk I think I'm okay with, and just use her as a secondary cleanser. The damage is just an added benefit, and mainly use her to interrupt units like Lua, Amid, anything else with that non-attack skill, combined with Ancient Dragon's Legacy for Lua specifically. I just want y'all to be aware of one thing, guys. Lua players are already adapting, so those of you that have pre-banned Lua now or have a lot of trouble dealing with her, you might still have to pre-ban her. You might still have to post-ban her because the players are already putting things on like Song of Stars, which can bypass this kind of mechanic or this gimmick to combat her. Just be aware, guys. Things are already turning, which is good for the game. People are bringing in answers, and then the people that are getting answered are finding solutions and workarounds. I love that kind of stuff. This is why the balance patch days are so exciting to me. But yeah, let me know who you guys have been enjoying so far. We have so much to talk about Last Rider Krau, so let's get to it. Alright guys, here's the stat line I decided to use moving forward, but full transparency, all the gameplay footage you're going to watch was me first picking or second picking Last Rider Krau no matter what in every single match at the Emperor rank, and he was decimating, guys. We were win streaking like crazy. He never felt bad. He always felt like he was doing insane. Some matches he carried all on his own, but the reason I bring this up is those stats were way less. For example, I think in the footage you're going to be watching here, he's going to be having like 2,000 less health. I didn't even have this imprint ready. I had like 4 Kraus lying around. I wanted to test today first, and obviously with how successful the tests were, I had to throw those imprints in. But like a 2,000 less health, over 100 missing defense. I think the speed was about the same, but not even like any effect resist, which we're going to talk about. Stay tuned, guys. The effect resist here is low for a reason. Well, I can make up for it with a reason, but some random crit chance, crit damage, and effect is mainly the point that I'm trying to say is in the past when I would throw on test gear for builds, because I want to see what the minimum a unit can get away with. Not everyone has insane gear, and if a unit has some insane gear that only like 0.1% of the player base can run, like what's the point? I don't think that's good, and the fact that Epic 7 becomes more and more gear intensive is a little bit of a shame. But overall, don't get discouraged if I show stats like this. Even this is still not perfect. I might swap out immunity. We're going to talk about all artifact, gear set, choices and all that here. Don't worry. But just don't get discouraged. It's all relative. Gear gap can often be overcome by smart drafting decisions and play making. And so whatever you guys can get, just make sure you focus on some bulk first and foremost. Find out the speed threshold you want them at, and then effect resist will just be a bonus. I would really encourage going for like 100 effect resist just to feel safe. There's a lot of annoying debuffs out there on units that don't build specifically effectiveness. 100 is a nice spot, and the reason I can get away with 72 is because a lot of my matches, 90% of my matches, I'm picking Maid Chloe as my Soul Hero of choice, and as y'all can see here with her imprint combined with the Maid's Cheer S2 passive and then Chamadra Staff, we're getting a bonus 50 plus effect resist on every single unit in my team. So I can get away with 70-ish. I might, you know, swap out effect resist, but we'll get back to stat gearing in just a second. First, let's go ahead and talk about what actually changed in Last Rider Krau's kit with the balance. All right, guys, this is the patch notes, and I'll make sure to talk about the awakened portion here. He got speed scaling. The cooldown was increased by 1 turn. However, now with the new effect of the code number 00, the passive Not only do we get increased barrier strength, but we have, whenever he's attacked, period, he decreases by skill cooldown and an additional 1 turn as well if it's AoE. So we get a double dip mechanic. And what that means is he's going to do more damage. Even though this got increased by cooldown 1 turn, in my findings, he was cycling so fast. This is almost always a net positive on top of that. And then the barrier strength just felt very, very good too. Even versus units like Landy, the barrier just felt very nice. Be careful though, there's going to be a lot of operator cigarette pickers. But I think Smilegate did a good job overall in making him a more proactive pick rather than a reactive counter style pick against strictly AoE. Now back to the stat line, guys, just to wrap things up real fast. Once again, find your stat threshold, give him some bulk, effect resist last but not least. And let me know if anyone has tried out the 290 speed Kraus, as I think that's also a viable alternative. If you guys play aggressive, I think Last Rider Krau can work there too. Build him mega fast, watch that damage come in, and then even slap a damage artifact on top of it. Next up, let's talk set bonuses. I think for the 4-piece, I think speed is just a no-brainer. A lot of people are already running Wyvern, so why not just get that extra speed? Now with speed scaling, it's obvious this was a choice even before the buffs too, but speed is what most of y'all are going to have. Just slap that on in the beginning. For the 2-piece, this is where we can kind of alternate. I like immunity just because I had some strong immunity pieces, and in certain RTA matches, it can honestly be the difference between winning and losing. Now, overall, if you guys find that immunity is useless for y'all because so many units strip, maybe you don't like running into, you're fighting a lot of Rimurus, for example, and it's just proccing things when you don't want them to. Maybe Landy's getting too many buffs. A lot of people may not like immunity. This is preference. So speed would be my recommendation for the 4-piece. 2-piece, you can run immunity, things like effect resist set to cap off 100. If I was to go effect resist set, I would get more stats, and I can maybe not run Maid Chloe, just, you know, cap that neatly at 100. Health set could work too. I think this is all preference. Let me know what you guys are trying out, especially in the 4-piece department. If anyone is trying like lifesteal, for example, I think that might have some potential, but I'll test that later on in the line. I think revenge set might work as well, but for in the beginning, guys, just run speed set if you need some recommendations. 2-piece, all up to you. Total preference. Now let's quickly talk about skill enhancements. I think plus 10 is the bare minimum you want to run them on, but if you had to skimp even more, you could probably let go of some of the barrier strength, but I think skill 3, obviously, with how fast he's going to cycle now, you really want this extra damage, and honestly, you should cap this out as well, because with the buffs, the barrier strength, this feels just so good. Anytime you bring in AoE, if anyone is bringing AoE, I should say, the barrier strength feels much better than in the past, and it's going to just provide so much extra mitigation. I would highly suggest plus 10. Now, quick note. If you guys can see here, guys, I have him at friendship 10, and I have these extra skill points. I'm going to be plus 5ing this punishment. Now, if you guys don't have as much molas as me, because I've been hoarding these like non-stop, if you're more free to play, if you're newer, I understand not having molas. You got to prioritize skill 2 and skill 3, and then beyond that, you might need these molas for other units that you're still building up your roster on. I just want to note that if you're going to run Last Rider Krau in a long match like I will, I think if you have the molas to give him, I would suggest putting them in here just last. But it does add up in the long run whenever you're chipping things down if you need to finish off units. Don't neglect this overall, but keep it, for a much later priority. Last but not least, let's cover artifacts. I went with Adamant Shield, which I don't think is a popular pick, but this was my preference of choice because I run him alongside. I was doing a lot of Golden Boy memes alongside Ambitious Tywin, who has an Aureus, and if you're ever able to combine Aureus and Adamant, it's just such a powerful combo that was used a lot in the past, but not recently, as it's hard to run more than one, mitigation knight. But now that Last Rider Krau is just doing a ton of damage on his own too, I've been liking this combo. I think the one a lot of people have success with in the beginning is the newly buffed Crown of Glory. This thing just matches up so perfectly with him, especially if y'all have one that's higher than plus 15 for the bonus stats and the bonus mitigation. But this thing is a no-brainer. Try this out if you don't know what you're doing in the beginning, and then just adjust to fit your needs. But the soul removal can sometimes win you a match on its own. And then obviously, like I keep saying, the synergy between what we're going to bring Krau into and this part right here is just a match made in heaven. Beyond Adamant Shield, Crown of Glory, you can run Aureus as a main if he's like your main knight and you want some extra mitigation like the damage share. But just be careful, guys, because Last Rider Krau, sometimes if you bring him into a lot of AoE units, which you want to, he might melt too fast, because remember, damage share from Aureus is not mitigated by anything like defense, so he's taking all that damage full front to the dome. So just be careful with Aureus, but it can work as well if he's your main knight. Beyond that, guys, I think artifacts like Rise of a Monarch can be good, especially the faster you are, the more benefit you'll get out of this with bonus barriers. Things like Highlight Glance I saw in a few fast Kraus that I was fighting against. That's not Highlight Glance, right? Where is it? Right here. Just for the extra cycling, extra combat readiness. And then beyond that, guys, I want to know if any of y'all are able to test. I might do this in the future, but something like Symbol of Unity or Portrait of Saviors. But let me talk about, damage artifacts, but let me talk about Symbol in particular, because what happened for me, if you guys want to first pick Last Rider Krau, what's going to happen? Your opponent's going to try to avoid picking AoE or skills that hit all enemies, right? Because they don't want to cycle Krau even faster. They're going to pick single target units, and in my findings, a lot of the single target meta units at the moment are units like Remnant Violet and like Light Auden, for example. Guys, Last Rider Krau, even when missing, because the way his skill 3 works, he's still going to do good damage on misses, but imagine you hit them on top of that and have increased damage just from Symbol Artifact. I think he will absolutely crush certain comps, especially squishier comps, so you guys might want to try this out as well. Might be more of a win more kind of artifact, and other artifacts will be better or more stable, but someone give it a try. If not, I'll test it here very soon. I think we'll wrap things up there, guys. Keep it short and sweet. Without a doubt, Last Rider Krau has been buffed to insane potential. We'll see how the meta shifts, but right now I'm having so much success locking him in no matter what my opponent's picking. That first pick slot, second pick slot, you can run him as a second damage dealer, you can run him as a second knight or first knight, main knight. You can run him in cleave comps, I think, aggro comps. You can run him as a damage dealer. I think he's just so good and answers the meta in a very, very powerful way at the moment. So if you have him, pick him up. If you don't have him, consider using or trying to get him in the near future, whatever means possible. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.